Mesechus Nazir, Daf Nun Aleph. The Gemara says, the Ula says that Rekev that's mitama like a mace is only when the Rekev comes from Bosor, Gidim, and Atzomis. The Biskrov declares, what's the get in this halacha that you need Bosor and Gidim Vatzomis is the pshat that the recovering has to come from Bosor, Gidim Vatzomis, and once there's a shame Rekev that's mitama, you don't need that each chelik of the rekev that Smitama has a tziruf of Bos Gidim Vatzomis together, or the pshat is in each Moli Tarvid rekev that's the shear that's Smitama from Moli rekev, you need a mixture of Bos Gidim and Atzomis. I'm the Rambam that doesn't bring the halacha of Ulu B'chlal, that rekev has to be specifically from Bos Gidim Vatzomis, and the Biskarov in stencils explains that the answer to the Rambam that didn't bring the halacha of Ula is because since the Gemara on Beis is mavur that a mace that's chasa koshu doesn't have the halacha of rekev, so since you need the entire mace to have the halacha of rekev, so it's not negay Ula's halacha. You need bosa gidim vatzomis. You need more than bosa gidim vatzomis. You need the entire mace. So I the shum from a Meshua Shlita that says that this teretz of the Beskov is totally in the Chakir and the Geder of Bosses Gidim Vatzomis. Because Bishloima, if the Geder and that the Ula says you need Bosses Gidim Vatzomis is a loch and Iker Rekovin, that the Rekovin has to come from Bosses Gidim Vatzomis. So it's also hated that it's not negated the loch of Ula, because besides for that you need Bosses Gidim Vatzomis, you need the Rekovin to come from Mei Sholim. However, if the Geder and Ula is halacha in the shear of Tarvid Rekev, and this Tarvid Rekev needs specifically Bosa Gidim Atzomis, so it's Shapi Negeya, the halacha of Ula, and it's not Nichlal on that. The mace that Choshe Kolshu doesn't have Bosa Gidim Atzomis, because the halacha of Choshe Kolshu is halacha in Ikari Koven, but then there's another halacha of Ula that the Tarvid Rekev needs a tzirif of Bosa Gidim Atzomis va'ayin shamoit. Moving further on, the Gemara quotes the Mishnah, the Kol shemeis tomei chutz minashinayim atzipoyim v'hasar v'atzipoyim. Any part of the mace is metame besides for the ear, the teeth, and the fingernails. I the Biskrov that we mentioned, the Shir Elam Dafnun declares what's the Geder in Tumas Mace. Is Tumas Mace specifically in Bosa and that the Sar and Tzipoyin and Shinayim are not metame is because it's missing the Shem Bosa, or the Pshat is Biyasoidei, Mace is metame and Mace doesn't need the Shem Bosa and that Sar Tzipoyin and Shinayim on the Smayit is a Din Mesuyim. There's Machlokes Rishonim. In this Mishnah, Tosis by us says that the hair and the teeth in Amatama is specifically when they're detached. However, when it's attached, that is Matama. And Tosis says the reason why it's Matama is because they have a halacha of a yad for tummo. The Sar and the Tzipurin have a status like a yad of tummo. However, the Rash in the Mishnah says that it's not the pshat because it's a yad, rather it's a kosiv that when it's mechuba it has a din like the mace itself. I know B'chonon and Psachim, they asked a tremendous kash on Tosis. He asked, how could it be that a hair is a yad for tummo? When you take a hair, you can't move the mace b'chlal, and it's not mishamish the mace b'chlal. So how could you have a locha of a yad tummo on here that's not mishamish the mace b'chlal? The Choy could answer this kasha according to tremendous yisoy that we mentioned the Shir El on Daf Lamed Vov from the Yega Aryeh, the Emek Brocho, proves many rayas that Yad the Tumah doesn't need specifically something that's Mishamish. The Dovet Tomei, even if it's not Mishamish, how much the Yad is L'tzirich of the Dovet Tomei. It has halacha like the Dovet Tomei, mitzad halacha of Yodis the Tumah. So here also, since the hair and the teeth are the tzurich of the mace, the part of the mace, so therefore they have a status like a yad tumah, even though it's not mishamish the mace b'chlal. And the shum from Yeshua Shlita that brings from a barrel that's Meirich and proved the tremendous Yisoy that there's two independent halachas of Yodis. There's halach of Yodis, where the yad is mishamish l'tum, and there's another halacha of yadois that's a chibur l'tum, and that is a halacha of yodis now sugya is midin chibur because it's not mishamish the meis b'chlal. And better proved because Be'emes it's in the sugya and chulin that a yad that's oimid ligza is doesn't have a halacha of a yad, and over here the Gemara clears the shaila by Sarah oimid ligza is if it's kegozes domi or it's not kegozes domi, and it's very hard to understand what's the Gemara's suffix specifically over here. If Sar is Oimeligs Higazis Domi, it's a clear halacha in the Gemara in Chulin that a yaz that it's Oimeligs is doesn't have a halacha of a yad. So Beryl says the answer is that there's two different halachas in Yodis. The Sugi in Chulin is discussing the halacha of yad that it's a meshamish. And if it's not mishamish because it's going to be cut off, so it's not mishamish. The Dover Tommy Bechlal, it's missing the chefts of a yad. Mashenkin over here we're discussing a yad that's not midin yad of tashmish, rather the halacha of yad that's a yad of chibur. And even though it's going to get cut off right now, it's attached. And Beryl explains that why do you need the halacha of yad of tashmish typically? Every yad of tashmish is a yad of chibur. So he says that it could be the yad of chibur is created together. However, if you attach it afterwards, it doesn't have a halacha of a yad of chibur, but it could be a yad of tashmish. And Ayin Shomer Beryl says further that it's muvur in the Gemara in Chulin, that it could be there's no yad for pochus mikazayis. It's specifically by yad of tashmish that's not choshuv to be mishtamish and to metaltal something that's less than the kazayis. However, yad of chibur, even if it's less than kazayis, no mice it's attached and has a status of a yad. Ayin the Sefer Ali Be'er Van Goyen was real catchly to that points out an important chiddush that's mashman our sugi over here, that the Yodis don't have a loch of galgalim, and it's not going to stir the loch of rekev of the mace. And he says that Be'emes it's totally a tremendous chakira of the Gedda of Yodis the Tumah. If the Pshat is the Gedda of Yodis the Tumah is it becomes a chelik like the Dov Tomei, or the Pshat is the Yodis of Tumah is just machnes and moitzi Tumah, but doesn't have a status of Dov Tomei itself. And he says from that fact that it's not Galgalim, it's mashma, it has a din like the Dov Tomei itself, and it's osi hativ, that's not considered galgalim and doesn't share the taruvis of the mace v'ayin sham. Moving further on, the Gemara says, Uber shemeisha have a galgalim or lo have a galgalim. Do you say that since Uber yerechim, therefore it's not considered galgalim, or since it's soifi lotzes, the Uber is soifi lotzes, therefore it has the status of galgalim and it shares the halacha of rekev of the mother? I say from Korboruch and Shuas Marsham that asks, what's the understanding in this Gemara? What's the tzaddik? You don't say Ubi Yerechimoi, we paskin Ubi Yerechimoi, and we don't say that since Soifi Lotzes, the Ubi doesn't have a status of Yerechimoi, so they prove a chiddush from this Gemara that there was a minig. When the Isha passed away with the Uber inside, they took out the Uber from the mother before Kfura, and the Chayim bring a raya from our sugya that's considered Sefer Lotzis. Why is it considered Sefer Lotzis? The answer is because even after Misa, they'll take out the Uber from Me'imoy, and therefore we say it's Sefer Lotzis. Ein Masham that brings from the Ran in Yuma that says that by a mace you don't say Ubi Erechimoy. And the Masham asks, if that's the case, then Shvel, all the tzad in the Gemara, what's it tzad to say Ubi Erechimoy? He says, Akoch say, Akoch the beer is that specifically when the mother's alive and the vlad is not alive, then you don't say Erechimoy. However, if both of them are not living, you do say Erechimoy. He says, Hadra Kush Leduchto, why do you say that because Sefer Lotzis, it doesn't have a loch of Yerechimoy? So Masham says that the answer is, and similar to this is Mavur in the Sivas HaKodesh and the Peris Teino, that Rekev is different than other halachas in the Torah. And Rekev, you have to look at the mace itself, and although the Gabi other halachas, Ubi Yerechim, where the Gabi Rekev, you have to analyze the mace itself. The same with Tzimvur and the Gemara and Beis, it's sad that the Or doesn't have halacha of the mace Klape Rekev, even though the skin is definitely considered chelik of the mace, and you have to look at the mace itself, and it's been like that in the sugi before. The more declares Sarah Imadigs Kigoz's Domi, Ulav Kigoz's Domi, even though the locha is in Cholat Terikulu, we paskin the Sarah Imadigs is not Kigoz's Domi, like Abe Mila, it's considered it's Mechober. So why over here do you say that Sarah Imadigs is Kigoz's Domi? So Ayin the Karador, it's Mavur, Rekev is different. You have to look at the mace itself, and anything that's Imadigs doesn't have a status of the mace. Beer in this svaro that the Yisoid of Rekev is totally in the matziv and the situation after the recovery, and after the recovery there's no chibur anymore, the sar and the or anymore, and you have to look at the actual mace that got disintegrated, and therefore it's not totally in the all the dini chibur that are totally in the chiyas of the person, because the Gabi recovery, you have to look at the situation after the recovery itself, and therefore it doesn't pertain to halacha of Ubi Yerechim, and only ligzis is kegozis domain, and even or is not considered a chibur.